personalized medicine, as this is the more generic term. This is something that people have been working for about 3-4 years now. So this is not a new concept per se, but lately this has become very exciting, and there's been a lot of research that has come in. A lot of journal articles have come in. Even corporates like Novartis or Merck or various companies like that have actually started working on it. There are reports of joint collaborations between companies. So the idea of this short presentation is just to kind of give you an overview of what is happening in this particular area, a small history, and give you a rough idea, of where you can take your research forward. Okay, so the first 3D printed tablet that got US FDA approval was by Spritam. So this particular company, they developed a process in which they used a powder bed based 3D printing technology, and using this, they formed their first 3D printed tablet. The idea behind 3D printing this particular tablet and offering this to the customers was the significant higher drug loading. That is, within the pharma domain, when we talk about tablets, there is this particular dosage of the active ingredient that can be put onto a tablet. Now, if you can have a higher drug loading, then this can actually help in the actual treatment of the particular patient. So the brief overview of the 3D printing process was they had a powder blend, and this was deposited as a single layer, and then they used a binding fluid or a glue, and this was applied, and this caused the particles to bind together. The process was repeated layer after layer, and final tablet was produced in this particular fashion. They patented this process and called this the Zip Dose technology platform. But essentially, this was basically a powder bind technology that has been prevalent in 3D printing for a long time. All right. Now let's come to talk a little bit about personalized medicine. Personalized medicine again is not a very new concept. Even in the olden days, in our Ayurveda or various therapies that are practiced all over the world, the idea was we diagnose a patient, and depending on the patient's actual conditions, we customize or make or formulate the drug as per his particular condition. Of course, in the olden days, it might not have been very scientific, but based more on human trial and process, and based on various experiences of the existing mendicant practitioners. But with the passage of time now, given that with the advances in science, we are now in a better position to understand the actual ailment of a particular patient, and then decide how much is the right dose that should be given to the patient. And if we can formulate the drug with that particular right dose, then we are able to offer him a much better treatment. The other key aspect that we should remember here is that every person, every human being has a very unique variation of the human genome. So while the human genome is common up to all the human beings on Earth, every person has a unique variation, meaning there is small change or small sequence change in the DNA or the RNA. Excuse me. And so the disease that every person has, or the reaction of the human body to every bacteria or virus, is slightly different. I think this is something that we are experiencing even today in the COVID virus situation. Given the amount of publicity and the amount of damage that the COVID has done across the world, we're finding that different people react differently to the virus. For some, it is asymptomatic. For some, it's a mild reaction. But for others, it's a very critical reaction of the body, and in some cases people are dying also. Hence the idea here being that every person is slightly different, and hence if we can customize the drug or the chemical to each and every person, we might be in a better position to diagnose or treat the patient. So in order to help us in this diagnosis, we have a large number of tools that are available, particularly now. So these are tools like data analytics, informatics, trying to figure out the patient's genomics or cellular analysis. So for doing this, there's a need for some genome sequencing or genotyping, some RNA sequencing, diagnostic tests that may involve medical imaging, such as, say, MRI contrast agents, fluorescent markers, nuclear imaging agents, or in vitro lab tests. So using these various ideas, we are able to perform number of diagnostics and try and figure out what is the the person's the setup, and how a particular disease can cause a reaction to a person, and then according to that, the idea is we would have personalized medicine for that. So from pharmacy compounding refers to the customized production of drugs whose properties are selected for individual patients. So a lot of papers now talk about this idea, and the idea, and so I just wanted to present this particular idea to you across this slide. Now, doing a case study of personalized medicine, a drug called tamoxifen. This was commonly prescribed to women with ER plus breast cancer. But it was found that 65% of the women initially had developed resistance. So, prima facie, it was thought that tamoxifen was probably a drug that could not be that should be withdrawn. But then later, David Flockhart and a number of people in his team, etc., discovered that women that have a certain mutation in their CYP2D6 gene, that was causing the tamoxifen to break down inefficiently, and then this made it ineffective treatment for them. So since then, after this particular research, women are now genotyped to find out whether there's a mutation in this particular gene, and then according to that, the therapy is provided to women. Similarly, in cancer, there is the idea of oncogenomics, basically the idea of application of this personalized medicine to cancer. So here again, the idea is we would do high throughput sequencing to characterize the genes, and then the genetic diversity within the single tumor would raise the possibility of finding drugs that may not work in a general population. So again, case studies here, trastuzumab that interferes with HER2 receptor, tyrosine kinase inhibitors that are used to treat CML. And I'll be happy to share more details about these case studies to you if you send me an email individually. Let's move on now to some of the challenges of personalized medicine. Some of the challenges are the idea of intellectual property rights, that is, people who develop this idea of personalizing the medicine to a particular disease. How do you protect their research ideas? So how is IPR rights related to that? The second idea here is the idea of patient privacy and confidentiality. So when you're doing research across patients, the idea that whether patients' data can be shared across, and how can we provide some amount of privacy to the patients. Then of course the regulatory concerns, oversights, and then finally the big question of who would pay for this particular treatment. So what may be the insurance or the reimbursement policies involved in this particular field of medicine, personalized medicine. So let's talk a little bit about 3D printed tablet. Now, the idea of why 3D printing, as I told you before, the idea of personalized medicine and personalized doses and release patterns. The second idea is it possible to achieve multi-drug combinations? Now, in some cases, it may be possible to have multi-drugs on the same tablet, while in some cases it is found that the different drug formulations or APIs may have some reactions, adverse reactions. So it may not be possible, or or if we need to put multiple APIs on a single drug, there may have to be a scheme in which they are protected from each other until the patient actually takes a dose. Uh, the third idea is the small, by 3D printing tablets, we can have small batch production which are tailored for specific geometries and designs. So in some cases, it is found that it may not be commercially viable to have a large batch production of particular drug because there may not be enough patients for that. So with the help of 3D printing, you can have small batches of production for these individual drugs, or there may be or research may find out that there may be some tailoring requirement for having specific geometries or designs. So such things are now possible with 3D printing of tablets. And then finally, the most important reason here is the target of complex dosage release profiles. So the different types of the release profiles, like immediate release or extended release, or there may be a need for controlled release, or in some cases a delayed kind of release, meaning that the drug should be released only after a certain period of time within the body, or it may be a pulsatile kind of release, meaning that the drug may have to be released in small pulses or short batches. Now, let's talk a little bit about the different 3D printing technologies that are available for 3D printing of tablets. Now, within this, we divided it broadly into three types of systems. One is the inkjet-based systems. These are continuous inkjet kind of printing or drop-on-demand kind of printing. Within the most commonly, you can use this inkjet in like the powder-based 3D printing that I've shown you earlier in the case of Spritam, where they use the powder bed technology. Now, for extrusion systems, the most commonly ones used are fused deposition modeling, or semi-solid or gel form of extrusion of the drug pattern. And then finally, the light-based systems like stereolithography or selective laser sintering, DLP kind of systems. So broadly there, you have a photoinitiator molecule that would be tied in with the APIs, and it would polymerize on use of light. All right. There are now a large number of APIs that have been 3D printed for oral drug delivery. So this particular table summarizes the different forms of APIs. The dosage form may be in the form of tablets, single tablets, or dual compartment or 3-compartment tablets. The technology used again is variation of FDM or inkjet or stereolithography. FDM, as you can see, is the most commonly used one because it's very economically viable, and also it's very widely available within researchers. Again, it just this carries on with the list, different forms of tablets, as well as and I can share this table with you in case you are interested. Just send me an email and I'll share this particular table with you. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the actual tablets. The polypills, the idea of polypills or multiple tablets on a single tablet. This is done by a company based in UK called FabRx. It's a biotech startup. And what they offer is polypills, meaning that different types of APIs or drugs can be 3D printed onto a single tablet. So, for example, in their case, they have used captopril, nifedipine, and glipizide. Excuse my pronunciation, I'm not very familiar with some of these drugs. But these three drugs were used to treat hypertension and type 2 diabetes. And this particular company was able to combine these drugs into a single tablet. Now, as I said, it may not be possible for you to combine all the drugs in a single tablet. There may be some adverse interaction between the drugs, leading to some undesired effects. So in that case, you'd have to have them in some form of compartments isolated from each other, so that once it enters the human body, the compartments would dissolve and the APIs would then be available to the body. All right. Give an example of another company, Revolution Medicines. So they came up with a fairly advanced kind of a 3D printer. Uh, this was done by researchers in Howard Hughes Medical Institute, where they're formulating new drugs by directly synthesizing blocks of small molecules. So here they take it even one level up, that they're actually formulating the APIs and then printing it out into the final tablet. So a number of R&D publications are also that have come out from academia. So I wanted to kind of give you an overview of some of those. So FDM-based 3D printing, again, very commonly used. Here, the idea is that you would have a specific design or custom design for the tablets. The infill may be varied so that you can change change the dosage of the particular drug to suit a particular kind of a patient. Or you may have some kind of other chemicals or reagents that would delay the release of the particular drug. So the idea is you can now have a very customized release pattern of the drug within the human body. So there was a very good article or journal article from researchers from Pakistan. And here what they do is they shared the studies of their experiments using a custom ciprofloxacin tablet. So they used PVA and PCL and blend it together with the drug. And then on a FDM printer, they're printing it out, making drug tablets with different infill patterns, different sizes, so that different dosage patterns could be created. So just to give you an idea about how FDM-based 3D printing is being used for 3D printing of tablets. We also have a very good editorial from Queen's University on the topic of drug delivery. This is a good editorial, so it gives you a lot of information of the different types of research that have come out on this particular field. The third case is a very interesting idea. So here what they're trying to do is they're using an external magnetic field. So the particular 3D printed tablet or dosage is actually ingested by the patient. And then using an external magnetic field, the particular tablet or drug is activated and a certain amount of drug is released. So if the magnetic field was turned on, you may trigger some amount of release, and then when this magnetic field is switched off, the drug is stopped to release. So in this fashion, based on the patient's reaction to the drugs, you can actually trigger the delivery of the drug. Another interesting article was on the partial coating of traditional tablets. So here what they did was, instead of formulating the drug itself or the tablet itself, they would take the traditional tablets and they would kind of coat it using an FDM 3D printer. And this would be helpful in selectively controlling the release. So you may choose to cover, say, 50% of the tablet with some kind of agent, and then that would mean that only 50% of the drug is being released. So this was another experiment that was done. And then finally, the idea of a multi-layer kind of drug delivery device. So here the idea is you inject more than one particular drug, and each of the different types of drugs are released at different parts of the gastrointestinal tract. So again, very customized use of personalized delivery and very targeted delivery of the drugs to the selected regions of the human body. All right. So in my very short presentation, I have tried to give you a brief overview, and of course, the research area is much bigger than this. If you have any particular questions now, I can take it, and you can just unmute your